Many of us, Hazel, saw the post-game interviews on Sportsnet, but you were at field level and in the clubhouse. Tell us about how deeply the Jays felt this loss.
Listen, you just heard that clip from Ernie Clement, and the tears were flowing. He had said that he had been crying for almost an hour before he spoke with the media, and you could still see little tears coming down his face. And Chris Bassett was also very teary-eyed, as was a lot of the guys. And Ian, I don't think it's so much. Of course, they were heartbroken over not winning the World Series. But as Ernie pointed out, I think the biggest painful realization is that this team won't be playing baseball anymore as a unit. You mentioned free agents. That's not to say these guys who will likely test the open market won't be back with the Blue Jays. It is unlikely. I guess if there is a positive, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George Springer, who are at the core of this team, the glue that's really kept them together, will be back in spring 2026.
It is a reminder, this is a business. For all the talk of, a team members loving each other and the management loving the team. Players will get released if they're not good enough, and they'll go to, better deals if they get them. But Bo Bichette not playing for the Jays next year, tell me that's not possible.
It is possible. Of course, as I mentioned, he could re-sign with the Blue Jays, but when you're in the open market, the Blue Jays have 29 other teams they have to beat out for his services. At the end of the day, Bo is going to look out for him and his family and the right situation for himself. He has always talked about how much he's wanted to win championships with his best friend, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He loves the city of Toronto. He loves the Blue Jays. He loves playing for Canada. But we don't know. We don't know what other factors will be involved. Again, fingers crossed that Bo Bichette and the Blue Jays can come up with a deal that suits both sides. But like I said, there's 29 other teams who would love to have the services of Bo Bichette.
You mentioned Ernie Clement. Let's talk a little bit more about him. I'll admit it, I'm a bandwagon guy, and I didn't even know his name 3 months ago. Now you see a guy set a record for most hits in the postseason. Yeah. To see a guy who obviously wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he's quickly become a fan favorite here in Canada. Tell me a little bit more about Ernie Clement.
Listen, Ernie Clement has been a guy who was released by the Oakland Athletics, who did not have a quote-unquote role to play when he was with the Cleveland Guardians. And now, as a guy that really wasn't a household name, as you pointed out, to start the season, he is a fan favorite. Why? Outside of his skills on the baseball field, he is one of the most positive people that I have ever met in this game. Whether he goes hitless in a ball game or has 4 hits in a game, which he did plenty of times in the regular season, he always shows up to work with a smile on his face. He is always so positive, and that kind of positive energy is really infectious. He loves playing for this team. He loves, as you saw in that clip, he truly loves his teammate. Chris Bassett, I thought, was really poignant in that clubhouse when he said, he was asked by a member of the media, can you ever replicate this camaraderie, this closeness with 26 guys ever again? And he said, how can you replicate, quote unquote, true love? And they really did love each other and do love each other. And I think in the country fell in love with this team. They were likable. They were relatable. They were entertaining on top of being very, very talented.
Well, and you don't have to go any further for proof about how people across the country kind of fell in love with this team than the ratings that Sportsnet released today. More than 18 million Canadians watched at least part of Game 7, and a lot of those people watched it to the bitter end. Now you're in a bit of a bubble there. You're covering the games in Toronto and on the road. Did you get any sense of how big the Jays had become?
Absolutely. In talking to the fans pregame, a lot of them, much like during the regular season, Blue Jays fans travel very well. But over this course of the postseason at Rogers Center, I heard, hey, I'm from Saskatchewan. Hey, I flew in from British Columbia. We drove from New Brunswick. We were just everywhere from across the country, from coast to coast to coast. And then on social media, I got a lot of messages from people saying, hey, we're watching from Nova Scotia. We're watching from Alberta. So you're right. As I'm in there in the camera well and I look around at the over 45,000 fans at Rogers Center, you really do forget that there are fans from coast to coast to coast watching and are invested in this team. You brought up the ratings. It is incredible. Over the last couple of days, just going to the grocery store, going to the gas station, I'm stopped by people who said, I haven't watched this much baseball in 32 years. And of course, Ian, you know, that's the last time the Blue Jays won a World Series title. I met casual fans who weren't really into baseball, but one look at this particular team and it was infectious.
Yeah, I do a call-in show on CBC Radio, Cross Country Checkup. On Sundays, we opened up the phones in the first hour to ask people how they felt about the series and the loss. And we were shocked at not only how many calls we got, but the quality of calls. Like, people were talking about sometimes first-time fans, sometimes long-time fans, but how touched they were by this team and the run. My last question to you may not be fair, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You've seen the Jays for a long time. Is there a moment from this run to Game 7 that you think will stick with you?
There were plenty of moments, but quickly I'll tell you the one most recent moment. Extra innings, Game 7, we mentioned Ernie Clement. I was at the bottom of the steps, the dugout, getting ready to go onto the field in case there was a celebration. And Ernie Clement walked by, saw me with my head down, because like most Canadians, it was an anxious time for me. He put his arm around me in the middle of the game and said, hey, are you okay? This is fun, isn't it? And that really will stick with me, because here he is in the biggest game of the entire career or of the year, and he's looking out for me and wanting to make sure I was okay. And that will stay with me. That just shows you how relaxed and how chill these guys were.
And how kind and generous, man. Like, I never heard a story close to that from anybody covering a major sporting event. That is fantastic. Hazel, you've become, well, you already were, but I think the whole Sportsnet crew have become the most watched people on TV over the last few weeks. So I hope you get a chance to relax over the next few days, and we really appreciate you being on this program. Hazel Mae is a Sportsnet Blue Jays on-field reporter. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ian.